Today is the first day of this April 1985 7-day retreat. And since it is the first day, we will say something about listening to a talk such as this. Listening to a talk in retreat, but it is not by any means limited to listening in retreat, but somehow or other it is facilitated by a retreat. This listening is not anything like our ordinary hearing something, hearing a lecture or a sermon. In our normal, in quotation marks, hearing, one hears from certain opinions and attitudes and ingrained ideas, beliefs. One hears what one wants to hear and shuts out what one doesn't want to hear, or distorts what is being said, not intentionally, but the mind filters automatically, trying to safeguard the body of opinions and ideas which we are from change, from disturbance. Is there another kind of listening in which there is no hard core of beliefs and ideas and hopes and wishes that is listening? But an open-endedness, where there is just listening. This just listening precludes, meaning excludes, agreeing or disagreeing with what is being said. One can watch it so carefully, how it is when one hears something and immediately agrees, yes, I agree with you. Has one even listened? Has one even looked before one is already agreeing? Or does the agreeing come from a yearning to find companionship in ideas, to feel stronger in one's confirmation of what one believes or holds to be true? It's so good if other people also think that way. A certain feeling of security, finding someone who thinks the same way, and so one quickly agrees. Actually, if one is listening in this open-ended way we were hinting at, there's no need to agree, because if it is seen that what is said is so, what agreement does it need? It is so. Then two people see the same thing. It's not one's seeing versus another, or the two of them agreeing with each other. It's not necessary. It is so or it is not so. So maybe in one's daily life one can observe in conversation or discussion or argument, how quickly one agrees or disagrees. The disagreement often trying to maintain also the position of me, not trying to be snowed by somebody else or won over. And the reaction is quick. It doesn't come out of carefully listening and carefully looking. What the words that are being spoken actually refer to. Because usually the speed in which we discuss and converse doesn't allow this careful looking. And very often the discussion isn't taking place in order to inquire into something or find something out. It's just a relaxed talking and repartee, joking. Not in order to investigate something together, which is what we're doing here. So can one, in listening to a talk, suspend these pressures to agree or disagree? And look within. Being in touch or getting in touch with what the words refer to, which means going beyond the meaning of the words themselves. That's what we so quickly react to. But what words may actually be referring to or standing for, that may be discovered within. If there's lots of space and openness, and a real interest to find out about this human mind. There's one other thing I forgot to talk about last night, which is a visit that I make during each block of meetings, sitting meetings, morning, afternoon and evening, to the sitting room here, because people sometimes wonder why she's coming up, why is she going through the aisles, is she checking my posture? Or trying to find out where I'm at. There's no such motive in coming up here. One reason is that it's not easy to sit for 2 hours at a stretch. It's good to take a break. And since all of you, most of you are sitting here, very few people relatively get into meetings and we get into direct contact there. It's good to make a visit up here. We've all come to this retreat together. So to be for a short period of time with each one of you happens out of friendliness, not out of trying to ascertain something or judge postures or practice. I don't even use that word practice. Or let alone find out what is in people's minds. It is sometimes assumed that standing behind a person to find out what is in his or her mind. One doesn't have to come into the sitting room to find out what it is What is in one's mind, it's thoughts usually. What the particular quality or content of thought is very irrelevant. If people would like to have their posture looked at, then let's talk about that whole thing of posture in a meeting. Just recently somebody told me that they were afraid of slumping. Sometimes they're so tired during sitting. It was not somebody who was working here. Often being tired during a sitting, but very afraid of slumping, because for one thing, one is not supposed to move. And then secondly, what will the others and the coordinators and the teacher who walks around think of one? If there are such fears or considerations in the mind, please bring them to the meeting room so we can air them out and maybe drop them altogether. Which doesn't mean that I wouldn't be willing to straighten the posture if somebody would like to have that done. Occasionally, it can become a real trip, sort of. And posture is not that important. Posture is very much expressing what state of mind and health and body one finds oneself in, and to sort of straighten it is go against something that is prevailing and creates tension and conflict. In the long run, for a moment it may maybe send some fresh breathing through the organism, but very quickly their worries or concerns or fixed images and thoughts in the mind or fears, the body will express that. Or one just has a certain posture without particular images or fears being expressed. It's just one's natural posture. I don't know. I'm no expert on this and don't intend to become one. What is important is that there be awarenesses of the processes of the mind which do affect the psyche, our psychological responses and our physical responses. And if there is no awareness, then we just live a half-life, living in fantasy and concept and idea, and not really in touch what's actually there. Either within or outside. Also, please, if there is something during the talk that is not clear or confusing, maybe during the walking period, without carrying it around during the whole talk, because then one can't really listen either. But maybe it will occur again as one is walking around or sitting later, then to jot it down and to bring it up in a meeting so we can look at the whole thing afresh. Track down the confusion together, if it's possible to do so. I would also say that even though I'm sitting here with a lectern in front and there's a certain spatial arrangement of people sitting around, listening to a talk, I do not consider myself your teacher, nor do I consider you my students. A teacher has something to teach, something to convey or impart, information and knowledge, and this work has nothing to do with imparting information and knowledge. The work has solely to do with investigating and looking at oneself together or alone. You don't have to come to meetings at all. You don't have to come regularly. This thought may come up too: if I don't go there every time it's my turn, what will she think of me? Nothing. It's up to you to come, and if you don't feel like coming, this is just that. There's nothing held for or against, unless one slips into that mode of thinking which is there in the human mind. There is no mutual possession here as my teacher, my student. Maybe you feel possessive about your teacher. Then this is something to be looked at. What is all involved in that? Why it is so, what the motives are, and what the fears are maybe underneath that. Fear of standing alone, or fear of not being competent to question and look by oneself. And this whole thing of having someone, possessing someone, not just a teacher, but all of our feelings of possessiveness of other people needs to be aired and irradiated with attention as it happens. Because so much conflict and so much human misery is bound up with this mutual or one-way possession of another person. With the feeling I have a teacher who knows goes very often a desire or readiness to submit to what a teacher says, which atrophies the human capacity to think and see for oneself. And a teacher who feels good about having lots of students is in danger. Pride, conceit, and again being out of touch with these very movements of the mind. Today, we will use a koan for the talk. Koan is often a very intense presentation of something which is good to look into and to question together. It's not important for me in a koan who says what and to start venerating those ancient masters who produce these koans by their interactions. Because with that can come a new teacher veneration, which is maybe there in many people's minds unawares, veneration for old Zen teachers, and with that goes a blindness, a tetheredness. a lack of freedom to question everything, including one's veneration of teachers. This one is called Nonsense Ordinary Mind is the Way. Several translations are combined. And even a combination of translations doesn't give us the original saying, which may never have even been written down as it came out, may already as it was written down in Chinese have been somewhat changed or altered. So it's important to keep in mind not to take words too seriously, but to try to go beyond words and look into what's real, what they point to, or maybe pointing to. Here it says, Joshua asked Nansen, what is the way? Or what is the path to truth? Or what is the truth? Although the Chinese word Tao that was used, so we're told, has that meaning of way or a passageway, a way from here to there, in its ordinary usage. So Joshua asked Nansen, what is the way? And the answer was, ordinary mind is the way. And the question was, shall I try to seek after it or not? Or shall I try to search for it or not? And the answer was, if you try to search for it or seek after it, you become separated from it. Or you get far away from it. How can I know the way unless I try to find it? Asked Joshua. How can I find truth or the way to truth unless I seek for it, search for it, try? Nansen says, the way is not a matter of knowing or not knowing. Knowing is delusion. Not knowing is confusion or blankness. When you really attain, he continues, when you really attain to this way of no doubt, or this way beyond all doubt, it is as vast and boundless as space. How can it be talked about on the level of right and wrong? Says here, with these words, Joshua came to a sudden realization. and inside. There's also a commentary and a verse to this particular koan. The commentary and verse were written by Mumon, the 10th or 11th century. It says, nonsense dissolved and melted away before Joshua's questions. It dissolved and melted away before the questions, meaning nothing to grab onto. If something dissolves as you're trying to grab onto it, if you try to grab onto an ice railing and it dissolves, you have nothing to grab. There's just water in your hands. Nonsense dissolved and melted away before Joshua's questions and could not offer a plausible explanation. Even though Joshua comes to realization, he must delve into it for another 30 years before he can fully understand it. Hope we'll have time, and if we don't have time today, we'll take it tomorrow to talk about a lot of elements of this commentary. And there's the verse which says, the spring flowers, the autumn moon, summer breeze, winter snow. If useless things don't hang in the mind or don't clutter the mind, every day is a good day. Or every moment is just as it is. Every season just what it is. Let's go back to the initial question that was asked, what is the way? Which is a question many people who do this work have in mind, trying to find a way to work. How can I get to awareness? What technique can I use? Will be asked. Or what is the way to freedom, to realization or enlightenment? A way, meaning to this brain, which has been conditioned in the concepts that it is using and applying, something that takes me from here to there in time. Depending on the tradition to which I attach myself in order to realize my goal, it will be a short time, medium length time, long time, or time of lifetimes, or kalpas of lifetimes. Enough to join, become a member, and also start supporting the teaching. One has this feeling that this is built in to projecting a long time to come to realization or to the goal, to liberation, to salvation. Come and join us, and we will take care of it if you support us. This is how churches and religious traditions have maintained themselves through centuries and centuries. In the Middle Eastern and now also Western religions, The way is the way of faith, faith in God or in the Son of God or the Mother of God, or a combination of these. Faith, and in some of the sects of Christianity at least, mediation through a priest, through an official of the church, to come to that God in which one has faith. But it is not something that is promised to happen immediately. There's time involved. And salvation usually at the end of one's life, either going to heaven for eternal bliss or to hell for eternal damnation. In Eastern religions, there is this element of doubt. Doubting all faith, doubting all belief, but it doesn't go all the way, because new beliefs and new faiths spring up around this religion and tradition of doubt. Faith in religious teachers of the past or of the present, submitting to them and allowing them to know the way, to lead one, to guide one. In this lifetime and in the next, very often it is said that one already had that teacher in a past life when one finds each other again. I don't know whether Joshua asked for a way like this. He supposedly traveled through all of China by foot and horse to come to this particular teacher to ask what is the way. And the answer was not a way from here to there, involving time and space and effort and faith or doubt, but the answer was ordinary mind is the way. So if one wants to question this statement, ordinary, not just take it over, one can take it over, and what has one in one's hands but words? Or a good rationalization for living as one is living, if one applies these words ordinary mind to one's ordinary way of living. Which happens. People who have read Zen literature and have read koans and statements like this very easily rationalize one's favorite ways of living, or one's habitual or clung to ways of living, as saying, this is my nature, this is the way I am. I have to learn to accept myself or love myself as I am. And then everything will flow from that. Is this the ordinary mind that is talked about here? Or do we have to plumb this ordinary mind, look into it, question what it could mean? Ordinary mind. ordinary, what was the original word? We don't know. That was used. Ordinary has the word of order in it, a mind that is in order, that is not out of order, confused, entangled in illusions, unaware of itself, which is all disorder. Maybe before trying to find out what this ordinary mind is, one needs to find out how this mind is, which operates and functions from moment to moment, and mostly unawares. Is one aware? Is one becoming aware as one hears this being talked about and questions it and wonders about it oneself, whether one hears to talks or not, listens to talks or not? Is one becoming aware of the automaticness, the mechanicalness of this mind and the body which follows suit? That there isn't a reaction that comes up to a stimulus, to something that is said to us, thrown at us, or happening to us, that there isn't a reaction which is not automatic or mechanical. Or is there? Can any reaction be anything but automatic? Coming from our whole disposition, our whole past experiences, past hurts, past training, upbringing, fears conditioned in the mind, and this hard core, this hard inner core of me, of self, which, if one observes carefully, is constantly trying to maintain itself, reassure itself, re-establish itself if it has been crushed. Maybe there has been an insight into it. And then so quickly comes the new maintenance, the new establishment of me. Me, the one who had an insight. And one struts around again, caught in an image, or a multitude of images. And these images are the instant reactors in pain and hurt or in pleasure. One could ask this question: is there anything in the mind that is not conditioned, that really belongs to me? Even that idea is a conditioned idea, something belonging to me. Because one has to look at first, what is this me that is an owner or a possessor of something? Or is that itself a habitual mind response? What is the me that feels hurt when treated unfairly, unjustly, that feels taken advantage of or being disadvantaged, that feels hurt or angered? What is it? Sometimes when We question like this in a meeting, someone will quickly say, I don't know what it is. And that answer itself needs to be looked at. There are at least two different ways of saying I don't know. One, I don't know, which comes very quickly when one questions what is the me, what is the I, what is its nature, its substance. And one immediately says, I don't know. Is it a sort of a trench in which one hides, a barricade, because it seems such an effort to look, and it seems frightening to look? Because what one is looking at may turn out to be an illusion, a thought pattern. Nothing to grab onto. So in quickly saying I don't know is one just hiding away or resisting inquiry. Or is one putting aside all one's ideas about what the I, the me, is all that one has heard, read, repeated oneself, and starts from scratch, meaning from not knowing, and therefore openly inquiring or looking as one lives from moment to moment, because the I is there. It will manifest itself, whatever one does. It usually doesn't go into very deep hiding. Someone recently said it is like cockroaches everywhere. Hard to spot, so adjusted in color to the surface, and yet crawling all over. Open a drawer and there it is. Wanting one's way, wanting to be noticed, wanting to be important to oneself, and one's actions coming out of this need. Or this pleasure, or seeking the pleasure of being acknowledged, being found important or interesting. Wanting to be loved. We started out by asking whether there is any reaction, and we are reactive all the time, can be observed very easily, that whatever comes at us verbally or in a situation, we react to in one way or another, whether any of that is free or it is mechanical, determined by patterns already laid down in the mind, and therefore anything but free. Maybe one remembers many situations in which one did or said something that one did not want to say or do, and yet there it was. It came out so quickly. And the not wanting to have said it also comes from a pattern of wanting to say the right thing, wanting to be polite instead of angry. is also mechanical, the reaction and the counter-reaction. What is there in one's way of thinking and feeling and reacting, and the body following suit with its reactions that are triggered by thoughts, ideas, and feelings? Is there anything in that that is unique for oneself, that belongs to oneself? Are there any mental movements, fearing, wanting, reacting, hoping, striving or searching to attain or attaining? Any mental movements that are not conditioned by the way one has lived and experienced before, has been taught before, or has been guided before? One can't answer this quickly. One has to watch it from moment to moment. Not in order to find it is free or to confirm it is not free, but to look. How is it? And is the looking free, or does it have almost built into it judgment of what is being seen? If a mechanical reaction is discovered, is the immediate response, it should be free? Then maybe this instant of seeing something is immediately clouded over, overlaid with a new automatic reaction, an old automatic reaction. Here someone says, there is no way, there's only ordinary mind. A mind which is in order, not ruled and programmed by past input. Not automatic, but ordinary, free flowing, responsive to this situation as it is, regardless how it was a moment ago. Something is held up here. This ordinary mind, which to the questioner becomes desirable to have, because in his long journey, even before starting to go to Nansen, there was probably a lot of questioning about what is truth, what is liberation, enlightenment. And now here is held up the ordinary mind. And how does one respond when this is being held up as the truth? Ordinary mind is the truth. How does one respond to a statement like that? Is it that the old mechanism is immediately triggered, I want that, or how can I get it? How can I attain it? because one wants to be free of all of one's burdens, miseries, and conflicts. Or one may not have burdens, miseries, and conflicts, but one still wants something better than what is there now. And as long as one wants something, one will ask for the way to get it. And very easily submit to ways imposed upon one to get it. Do we see that? As long as we want to have something, and looking at wanting to have something, it usually comes out of fear of not being sufficient, fear of one's lack or the pain of one's lacks. Out of that comes the wanting for something. And if the fear is strong and the wanting is strong or weak, it's there, let's say it's there. And someone says, yes, you can get it if you do such and such. Does one see the danger one is in? The danger also of fabricating illusions for the future, or illusions about the people who may be helping or guiding one to get that desired goal. So does one see that much more important than being occupied with a desired goal and how to get it and with whom to get together in order to get it? Much more important than that is to question into wanting and fearing, to face that deeply so that doesn't rule one's life and lead to illusion and attachment and dependency. If one understands this connection between fear and wanting and the illusion of the goal, of the desired thing, and the danger of becoming dependent on ways and means and people who promise to get one there. If one really understands it, then it becomes very meaningful to face fear and wanting totally. Meaning not, again, with an eye out for the reward it may bring, but for what it is, and to plummet to the very root source. Face it. The words may not be good, but the doing is absolutely essential. Facing fears and facing wanting without immediately becoming absorbed in the goal of one's wants or the content of one's fears. Just fear. What is it? Can it be faced and be there and not doing anything about it? Just sitting or walking in the face of it, in the midst of it, with no escaper or mender or doer or judge. No one there, just what's there. Bathed in attention. Is it possible? Here the question was, shall I try to seek after it? And the answer was, the more you try, the more you become separated from it. When fear or wanting or pain wells up, does one have to seek after it? Or try to face it? Or is it just there? Can that be realized? It's just there. It needs no doing. What is happening is one tries to escape from it, brush it under the rug, ignore it, numb oneself to it. Which all causes complications and never resolves anything. What is this moment, this instant of sitting, walking, working, lying down? When I don't try for anything. Maybe one is already jumping too far. Maybe just to see how one is trying every moment to do something or to undo something. Can that be seen in all simplicity, bare of any judgment? And if judgment comes up as an old reaction, can that too be seen in all simplicity? Not making a thing out of anything. We will end here for today.